Good morning, good afternoon. I can see everyone joining in and wanted to make sure we get started on time, knowing that everyone's got 1 hour. Thank you so much for everyone joining, and good afternoon and good morning again, as I was saying. Thank you for joining NIMBL's webinar, Boost Testing Power with SAP Solution Manager and HP ALM Testing Suite. Just to give you guys a quick overview on NIMBL, my name is Louisa Bowman. I'm one of the team members here at NIMBL. And NIMBL is a Denver, Colorado-based company. We are an all-onshore SAP VAR. 80% of our employees sit here in Denver, and we do production support, project consulting services, SOW production support of ERP, CRM, development, and security. We have been around since 2009. And we are 100 consultants strong. And we have grown really through customer referrals and word of mouth. You can see some of our services here that we cover. We really started with Solution Manager. That was really back in 2009 is really where we founded our expertise. And it's grown into a number of services that you can see here. And these are some of our clients that we have worked with or currently working with. Okay, well, to get started, I wanted to introduce our presenter today, Steve Christensen. Steve is one of our practice leads here at NIMBL. Steve is responsible for driving our testing side of the house. He has 10 plus years of deep testing expertise both within and outside of the HP world. On the SAP side, Solution Manager Test Workbench and TAO, and on the non-SAP side, HP and WorkSoft. He's been both a customer and a consultant on all sides of testing and loves testing. His motto is, you can't test what you don't know. So a no-nonsense and practical approach to SAP testing provides his customers with cost-effective and actionable takeaways. So we're excited to have everyone join today, and we hope that this is useful information to you. A couple housekeeping items. We obviously have the chat box on the left. Everyone has been muted. So please let us know if you have questions throughout the presentation, and I will try and take a moment to ask those as appropriate. And then at the end, we'll have 15 minutes set aside for questions. We will also be providing a demo of the integration with these tools towards the end as well. So just to give everyone an insight, this will not be all PowerPoint. And we'll be providing some polling questions that everyone will be able to participate in and see the results to kind of gauge where you are with your peers and allow us to really understand the audience today. Without further ado, I will turn it over to Steve Christensen.
Yeah, thank you very much, Louisa. That was a very kind introduction there. So I am Steve Christensen, one of the propeller heads here at NIMBL. I know it's not a nice thing to say about my colleagues, but any other description would just sound like I was too pompous. So anyways, I'll be leading today's presentation on test management, SAP test management using HP toolsets. And the agenda is as follows. We'll start off with discussing some of the common customer pain points with regard to testing, and then we look at SAP's test management strategy and basically talk about how all of their strategy lines up with the different customer pain points and looks to alleviate those pain points. We'll then jump into the HP tool set, talk about all the tools that go into the solution, and then get into the testing process, followed by a quick demo of the entire testing process. And we can then talk about other cleanup matters like how do you maintain your solution and then next steps, and open it up for Q&A. So this seems to be a good jump-out point for us to do the first polling question, simply because we have quite a few attendees. I see 53 right now, and this recording will be sent out to even more individuals. So we'd just like to get a feel for where you are in your life cycle of test management and what are you looking for specifically from this particular webinar. So the first polling question has to do with exactly that. What interested you in today's webcast? So we'll wait for a few results to come in. Okay, so I'm going to skip to results. And it shows that we have a lot of individuals, about 68%, 69% and growing, interested mostly in the general knowledge about testing. We have a few that's planning a fresh implementation, a few looking to do an upgrade, possibly an enhancement pack application. So that's perfect. I'll try to tailor this presentation to towards those interests of yours. Okay, so let's jump right to the customer pain points. So what we've seen over the number of years, and this has been based on a lot of experience, that you cannot run your business with just SAP or any homegrown business system. You will have a very heterogeneous landscape, and it's over time you forget what are the different integration points. You have multiple platforms to test on, so you could be testing on the SAP platforms, and SAP has so many different platforms, right? ABAP, WebDyn Pro, Java WebDyn Pro, the normal GUI stuff. So testing becomes very difficult because now you need to find the tool that's going to help you test on all of these different platforms. You should be able to test on the AS400, test SAP, test a web POS system, for instance. So that's the number one pain point that customers encounter. The next piece is when you go with a prepackaged software product like SAP. SAP provides you with a number of updates, fixes, etc., which you need to apply to your system. And that constantly introduces change into your system. And so just from that perspective, you need to test what changes are coming in before you can actually apply it to production. So the frequency of these changes coming in is so frequent that it makes testing a big pain point. And then finally, you say, okay, so how do you go about testing it? Automation seems to be a good answer. But the effort behind actually creating automated test scripts that you can leverage for regular execution can be pretty substantial. So considering all of these different customer pain points, SAP came up with a test strategy. So here are some of the decisions that they made when they came up with their strategy. The first one is we need to know exactly what needs to be tested. So let's create a central hub and record our business processes end to end. So now that we know 100%, and this goes to speak to my philosophy also, if you don't know what you have to test, you're really not going to test everything. So if you have a central hub where you can record all of your business processes, you know what your processes involve from A to Z, you can now say, okay, if I'm doing an upgrade, I need to test everything. Or if I can determine the impact of change on that complete set of business processes, I know what I need to test. Okay, so that was decision one, create a central hub of business processes. The second functionality was basically saying, okay, even though I know what I need to test, I might not want to test everything. So let's look at it as, can we introduce risk-based? So how do we determine risk? Based on a number of users that use the process, will it bring down business? Are we not able to ship product, etc.? So let's make testing more risk-based in planning. Let's make sure that we allow for manual testing as well as automated testing. Let's make sure we do performance testing, and we can provide sufficient reporting and sign-off. Okay, so that was decision 2 from SAP. And then decision 3 was that SAP knew that it didn't have all the tools needed for testing, but there were a number of companies out there like HP and IBM which have been in the testing realm for a number of years. So let's allow for integration with these testing partners and their tools so that we can provide multi-platform testing, okay, and more flexibility to our customers. So having said that, SAP then said, okay, so what is it that we are looking to do from a test requirements perspective? So we can have a fresh implementation or a new solution that we're looking to introduce in SAP, in which case we need to determine what are the business processes that are going to be in it, and that would be your business blueprint. Or you could be having your solution already defined, and you want to determine the impact of change. So that would be a solution update. That could be support packs, legal changes, enhancement pack changes, applications, customizing changes. So that would be a solution update, in which case we need to provide a change impact analysis tool, which will help you then determine what you have to test. So the types of change is a new solution or a solution update. The test scope is either test everything or just determine your impact of change. And then that goes into the test planning. So provide a tool over here that's going to allow you to build test scripts, tie it to your test scope, and then provide flexibility in being able to execute those test scripts and then report on the test scripts. Okay? So having said that, one of the solutions that SAP has involves using the HP tools, and that's what we're here to discuss today. So let's look at the different tools. So up top, you have what the requirements were, and down here, you have all the defined tools. So the first is Solution Manager. Solution Manager here basically behaves as the repository of your business processes. So it contains your business process hierarchy. Based on that, you can then define what your test requirements are. You can then send those requirements across into Quality Center. Quality Center here behaves as your repository of your requirements, which are sent across from Solution Manager, and your repository of your test cases, be they manual or automated, and your coordinator of your test executions and the logging of defects, etc., managing of defects. The next tools that come into play are QTP, which can be used for test automation. SAPTAO is another tool. This is a third generation tool which is also used for test automation. LOADRUNNER, which is used for performance and load tests. And then if you were to use Excel today, you're a customer that uses Excel, you can just upload your Excel test scripts also into Quality Center and perform manual testing. Okay, so these are the overall tools that are involved in this test management solution. So let's start off one by one discussing the tools. So the first one is Solution Manager. Solution Manager was introduced by SAP to help customers manage their solution, their SAP solution. When I say SAP solution, it consists of two parts. It consists of your landscape, which is all your different servers, so dev, QA, and production for could be CRM, ERP, etc., right? And then it also contains your application, which is your business processes. So Solution Manager sits in the center, talks to all of your different servers, and via RFCs, it's able to manage the landscape, manage transports, manage data volume management, do early watch alerts, and all of that good stuff. But to manage applications, it's important that you define the business processes within Solution Manager. So SAP has created what's known as the business process hierarchy, and allows you to document your business processes in a three-tier structure, the highest level being a business scenario, then business processes under them, and process steps to it. Across these three levels, you are able to store documents like requirements documents, functional specs, tech specs, etc. You're able to store transactions, programs, even the configuration that you do in SAP, you're able to store that into your BPR. You're able to store test cases, training documents, all of that good stuff. And we will show you how a typical BPR looks like, or at least a sample of how a BPR should look like. Okay? So once you have that structure ready, you now have the answer to your question of what you need to test. You have your 100%. Then you're able to define what your coverage is. So having said that, I think this might be a good stopping point for our next polling question. And this will have to do more around if you already have Solution Manager and how you're utilizing it today. Okay, here you are. Are you using Solution Manager today? Have you documented your business processes? Just want to look at some of the responses coming in. Excellent. So we seem to have quite a few responses already, so I'll just skip to the results here in a second. Okay. And it seems like there are a few customers that use other tools to document their business processes. I'm seriously hoping it's not SharePoint. And I see there are a few customers that are definitely interested in learning more about building a business process repository within Solution Manager and leveraging it to manage your business applications. Okay, perfect. So moving on to the next piece, which is, so how would you go about building your business process repository within Solution Manager? Well, if you're a customer that has already taken the trouble to document it and you've built a business process master list in, say, Excel or have it up in SharePoint, you can leverage the business blueprinting tool available within Solution Manager. You can download the template, modify it, and upload it into Solution Manager. That would be an excellent start to have your business processes documented there. If you are a customer that hasn't built your business process repository, there are a number of tools that SAP has provided to you via Solution Manager. The first one being Solution Document Assistant, or SDA. And you can perform a process known as the reverse business process documentation using the SDA tool. And what it does is you have a workload analysis data, or basically the usage information data. You know, you have users in your production system executing transactions, programs, etc., all day long. That usage information is getting logged into the what's known as the workload analysis data, accessible via ST03N in your system. So that data can be matched up against certain reverse business process documentation rules, and based on that, it will Solution Manager spits out a structure of business processes that could potentially be active in your system. So there's some amount of cleanup that's required after the fact, after you run the analysis, but it's a good start to get your business processes documented. Okay. Another tool that just came out with Service Pack 11 of Solution Manager 7.1 is the Scope and Effort Analyzer. So Scope and Effort Analyzer is a tool that will basically help you determine the impact of an enhancement pack application to your system. But one of the things that Scope and Effort Analyzer does is it will give you, it will build a business blueprint just like you see here in the background, but it's based on SAP modules and not end-to-end business processes like in the reverse business process documentation using Solution Document Assistant tool. Okay, so that might be another way. If you are in the process of going through an upgrade, you might want to look at this tool and say, hey, you know, this might help us get started on first defining our business processes and then determining the impact of change. and knowing what we need to test. All right, so that is a good segue into the next tool, which is the business process change analyzer. So just to reiterate, we talked about building your business process repository, which is 100% of all your business processes. Now we want to determine, here's a change event. I'm just going to be applying a few customizing transports, or I'm going to be applying a support pack, or I'm going to do an enhancement pack. Which business processes are potentially going to be impacted? The tool that is provided to you within Solution Manager is the Business Process Change Analyzer, and it will tell you exactly what processes are going to be impacted. Okay, so the BPCA tool, it's not automatic, right? I mean, there's no abracadabra and it gets done. There's a reason why it's accurate, and this slide kind of talks to you about why the tool is so accurate. So when you look at your change that you're making in your system, as I said, it could be a transport, it could be a support pack, it could be an enhancement pack. Ultimately, it's a transport that contains objects in SAP that you are modifying, correct? Now, in Solution Manager, there is the concept of what's known as a TBOM. A TBOM is a technical bill of material, okay? And simply put, it's a collection of all the objects that go to make a transaction or go to make a program work. So your transport has a collection of objects that you have modified. Your TBOM has objects that make the transaction work. If there is an intersection, you know the intersection of objects that are common between your transport and your TBOM. So now consider over here, you have your business scenario, your business process, and your process steps. So the order-to-cash process has steps like quotation, sales order, delivery, all the way through to billing. Quotation uses transaction VA21, sales order uses VA01. So you create TBOMs for VA01, you create TBOMs for VA21, etc. Right? Here comes your transport. This is your change transport. If you can find these intersections, you can determine that transaction VA01 is going to be impacted by this change transport. VL01 is impacted by this change transport. Thus, you know that the delivery process step is impacted. The sales order process step is impacted. Thus, you know you need to regression test order to cash. So that's how the business process change analyzer tool works. Okay, and since it goes right down to the object level, you know it has an accurate analysis. Okay, so we have the final stopping point over here for our polling questions. We just like to gauge the interest in the attendees, whether they're interested in looking at the BPCA tool and if they'd like more information on it. Oh, I'm sorry, the poll question over here, it doesn't relate to the BPCA tool. This is more to do with whether you own HP Quality Center ALM or are you looking for it? But let's go ahead with this poll and look at the responses that we have here. Perfect. So we have about 38 responses. I am going to look at the results. And it shows the majority of users here do have HP ALM and use it. So that's good news. And there are a few users that do manual testing, so I can see why you'd be interested in looking at this webinar. And I thought we had Okay, we have a question from Sanjeev Golab. And the question is, who is responsible for doing the SDA documentation? Is it basis or functional? And what's the prerequisite from the basis side? So, Sanjeev, basically, the SDA tool, Solution Manager, when it first came out, it seemed like it was more of a basis tool. And, this question that you're asking is more strategic. So when SAP decided to include support for business applications as well within Solution Manager and allow for you to create a business process repository, etc., the ownership of Solution Manager switched from just being basis to also being part of the functional team. So typically you would see a functional resource that would be assigned to Solution Manager to help out with the creation of the business process repository, the maintenance of it. The functional team gets involved because they'll be storing their transactions, their documentation, etc., within Solution Manager. And then when you turn on other functionalities such as ITSM and Charm, that's when you're looking at the functional team getting more and more involved in the usage of Solution Manager. Now, the analysis to do the reverse business process documentation, you can download the reverse business process documentation rules from SAP Service Marketplace and have that in Solution Manager. The execution, you need to make sure that you have certain the RFCs are set up, etc. So that would fall to the basis team to make sure that it's ready. But the execution can be scheduled by the functional person responsible for Solution Manager, and even looking at the results and cleaning those up can be their responsibility. So, as I said, Solution Manager is evolving and is no longer just a basis tool. The functional team definitely needs to also start getting involved with the usage of Solution Manager. Okay, so coming back to where we were on the business process change analyzer, having talked about how the business process change analyzer works, I wanted to talk to, we mentioned the terminology of TBOM, or Technical Bill of Materials. There are 3 different types of Technical Bill of Materials that you can create, and they have a direct impact on the quality of your change impact analysis. So the first type of TBOM is a static TBOM, which is created programmatically. It's like executing a where used on your system. The second type is, and this is a more accurate TBOM depending on how you create it, but it's called a dynamic TBOM. So as the name states, it's basically you get the business users to execute the transaction, and when they do that, there's a trace running in the background which basically traces all the objects that are being touched when they're executing that particular transaction. So you can see why the dynamic TBOM would be more accurate than the static TBOM. But considering that you have to update the TBOM every time you introduce a change into the system, it becomes kind of labor intensive. And so with Service Pack 10, SAP came out with a new type of a TBOM called a semi-dynamic TBOM, which utilizes the background job and UPL data, or usage procedural logging, that's available within your ABAP kernel. And it provides a little more detail behind the static TBOM and create what's known as semi-dynamic TBOM. Okay, so the more accurate your TBOM, the better your analysis will be. The more accurate your analysis will be, less false positive results in BPCA. Okay, now here's the tool that allows you to synchronize Solution Manager with Quality Center. It's known as the SAP Quality Center Adapter. So it connects Solution Manager and Quality Center. It's a simple web service between the two systems. You're able to send, it's bidirectional, so you're able to send the business blueprint hierarchy, the test requirements documents, test objects, that means a transaction or a program or a configuration object. You can send it as a test object into Quality Center. All of that is to Quality Center. And from Quality Center, you're able to send back the test results into Solution Manager if you choose to make Solution Manager as your central hub for reporting. Okay. If not, you can just manage your defects, etc., within Solution Manager, and that can be your testing side and reporting system. Okay. So we spoke about Solution Manager, which has BPCA. We talked about the adapter. Now let's go into the HP tool sets. So the first tool obviously is Quality Center, kind of very important tool. It orchestrates your test management. So you're talking about storing your requirements in the requirements module, being able to do things such as requirements traceability, coverage analysis. It contains also a test plan module. This is the module where you store all of your test scripts, be they manual, automated. They're stored within the test plan module. The test lab module is exactly what it sounds like, a lab. You can create a test set, put all your test scripts into it, and execute. And since all of these modules are interconnected, the results flow all the way up to requirements, and thus you can see the requirements traceability. Okay. It also contains a defect module, which allows you to create, manage defect to completion. There's a very strong workflow functionality behind it. They are managed by statuses and other conditions, and testers and developers can receive emails and change statuses and manage defects. Okay. Automated testing, the first tool, as I mentioned earlier, was SAP Quick Test Professional or Unified Functional Test, which is the latest version of QTP. And the advantage of this tool is that, firstly, it has, since it's an HP tool, it has seamless connection with HP Quality Center. It uses a record and playback approach to creating automated test scripts. And the biggest advantage of using the QTP or UFT is that you can test across multiple platforms. So be it AS400, you can use the emulator plugin. If you want to do it on SAP, you use the SAP plugin. If you want to do it on web, you use the HTTP web plugin. And you can create end-to-end test scripts for your business processes using this tool. And then we have the tool from SAP known as SAPTAO. This tool is more of a third-generation test automation tool because it has a new paradigm for test automation. What it does is it creates test components. So it uses the business process testing framework from HP, and it creates components for every screen within SAP. And you can string those components along together and create your end-to-end test scripts. The platform supported by TAO, since it's an SAP tool, is only SAP platforms. So GUI, CRM Web UI, ABAP WebDyn Pro, Java WebDyn Pro, and all of the other platforms that SAP works on. The biggest seller for SAP TAO, and the reason why people go for SAP TAO, is the quick repair. So for those people that use test automation, generation 2 of test automation, you know that when you make a configuration change or you make a customization change, the screen might get modified. You might make a field mandatory and stuff like that, in which case your recording that was created using a Generation 2 tool will be broken. It won't work. So you have to go and re-record that screen. And that is where the effort behind creating automation scripts came into play. Now with TAO, since you're building individual components per screen, all you've got to do is go and repair that one component that is broken. And when you repair that one component, since that component is being used in multiple test scripts, it repairs all your test scripts together. So that's the big seller of SAP TAO, is that it's able to do, you're able to maintain your test scripts relatively easy. Okay, and but you still need HPQTP and or HPUFT to get TAO to work, because the engine behind TAO, when it builds components, it's using QTP. It's using the business process testing framework. So you need to have QTP to get TAO to work. QTP is a Generation 2 tool, but that's the engine that drives SAP TAO, which is the Generation 3 tool. Okay. We have a question from Ron. Is HP BPT an absolute requirement for TAO? Yes, you need to have the licenses for HP BPT because that is the framework for SAP TAO. BPT stands for Business Process Testing Framework, and the whole idea there is to create individual components that you can string together and create your test scripts. So that is why you need BPT for SAP TAO. Terry has a question, which is, please explain any programming that is needed for each component, including TAO. Basically, and we can demo this when we create a TAO test script. But if you take a look at the TAO test script, it is mini QTP scriptlet, and it's automatically built by the TAO tool. So there is no programming that's needed for the TAO components. Now, you need to have a little expertise when it comes to, utilizing some of the default components that are provided to you by SAP. So if you want to do multiple executions of a test script, for instance, then you'll have to use, a particular TAO component. Or if you want to daisy chain multiple test scripts or multiple components to create an end-to-end test script in TAO, then you'll have to use certain default components. So it's more of a drag and drop and knowing exactly, how to, say, for instance, when you need to do a consolidate, first remove your initialize and context component, consolidate the rest of the script, reintroduce it, make sure it's pointing to the correct data table. All of that good stuff will have to be done, but it's more of programming by drag and drop and by clicking rather than actually writing code. Okay? All right. Now, one of the other tools that we talked about was LOADRUNNER, and this is an HP tool that was available, that has been available for a very long time. You can do load testing or performance testing on your systems prior to actually rollout. So those doing fresh implementations, this is definitely a tool that you should leverage to make sure that performance is being met. Make sure you have a baseline, what is acceptable performance for the users, etc., and then leverage this tool to make sure your systems are performing correctly. Here are some screenshots of typical samples outputs that you can expect from the LOADRUNNER test tool for performance testing. And then there is also another tool known as Service Test, which is another tool made available by HP. And HP has consolidated it with QTP to create UFT. So when I say HP UFT, it's nothing but QTP plus ST. And this is a tool that you will use to test your interfaces between systems. So interfaces that has a headless layer or does not have a GUI. You're able to test that using the HP UFT tool and the service test component within the UFT tool. So out of the box, it'll support interfaces that involve visuals or Java message services, HTTP, etc., etc. Okay. So we talked about the entire tool set involved in this test management solution. So let's look real quickly at the testing process and the flow and how it's supposed to work. So we have the business blueprint that's built in Solution Manager. You have the 3-level hierarchy of scenario, process, and process step. This little icon over here shows you that you have transactions stored against that process step. You're able to send these requirements into the requirements module of Quality Center using the Quality Center adapter. Then you create test scripts within Quality Center. These can be manual test scripts or automated test scripts. And then you tie them up to the requirements. So now when you look at the requirements module, you have traceability. You can say, I have to test this particular transaction. Do I have a test script that's available for execution? Once I have that tie-up, I can then take those test scripts, put them into a test set, and assign those test scripts to certain testers to execute. When the testers execute, they will receive an email notification. They'll open up the test set, look at the test script, execute the test script. If there's a defect, create a defect. You can send the defect to Service Desk in Solution Manager, and that'll send a notification to the developer, or you can just manage your defects directly here in Quality Center. Okay, so that's the testing flow for this solution. Any questions while we switch to a demo? Okay, so I am going to share my lab environment. And okay, so I have a remote desktop session into one of our lab environments. And let's start off with Solution Manager. So SM8 is our Solution Manager environment. This is on Service Pack 12 of Solution Manager. So if I execute transaction Solar01, which is a blueprinting transaction, or Solar02, I can get into a project where I have my business processes defined. So this is typically how a business process structure looks like. You'll have the business scenario. So in this case, I have the order to cash scenario. Then level 2 is business processes. So in this case, I have sales and distribution process. And then I have a number of steps under it, which is from quotation all the way through to billing and reporting under it. If I click on one of the steps, you can see in the project documentation tab, I'm able to store documents. And adding documents is very simple. I can just say, click, insert, choose what document type I want to use. And in Solution Manager, you can define templates for your team to use. So there's uniformity in all of the test scripts, in all of the documents that are being stored in your business process repository. Okay? So you can see I can store functional specs, requirements documentation, specifications, test scripts, all of that good stuff. You can upload files if you have them local, or you can, use a web link. So if you already have it stored in SharePoint, you can basically just store the link in Solution Manager if you wanted to do that. Okay. In the Transactions tab, I'm able to store transactions, and it's as simple as saying define the transaction. I can, in the Configuration tab, store the configuration. As you can see here, the actual IMG object, for those that have done configuration, the actual IMG object is being stored in here. And this is executable. So if I highlight this and I click execute, it will take me to the ERP environment from which this, and take me directly to that configuration node. So you can see how this starts becoming your central, your center of truth. This is your business processes. This can be useful for knowledge transfer, can be useful for rollouts, and all of that good stuff. Okay. In the Development tab, it's possible to store programs. There are all of the other different things that you would like to store in here: functional modules, functional groups, baddies, BAPIs, all of that good stuff can be stored in here. Now, for the sync across into Quality Center, when you do the configuration, there will be an additional tab that shows up. And this tab is known as the Transfer to SAP QC by HP tab. Okay, I know it's quite a mouthful. But here is where you will define exactly what are the requirements, test requirements that you want to send across into Solution Manager. Okay, so you can simply just click on the add, and you can say whether you want to send a requirement or you want to send a test object. And what it will do is it will pull up a list of documents that are available in the project documentation tab. So you store the documents in the project documentation tab. You can choose which one you want to send across as the requirements document to Quality Center. Okay? And then the interface is very simple. Once you have defined for every step what it is you want to send across, you can just say configuration, send data to Quality Center, and it will send it across to Quality Center. So I have a session open up over here. This is the latest and greatest from HP, HP ALM 12.01. Okay, so as you can see here on the left side, pardon me. On the left side, you have a number of modules. You have dashboards for, quick view of how the testing is going on for management. You have the management module where you can define releases and cycles and assign those to your testing. But what we're more interested in is the requirements module. This is where you'll see the requirements come across. And right now it's completely blank, so I'll just go back to Solution Manager real quick and send the requirements across. So configuration, send data to Quality Center, make sure everything is selected. Okay, I'm just sending the order to cache process. Say okay, and data transferred. That quick. Now when I come here into Quality Center, I can do a refresh, and you can see requirements have come through. Just going to do an expand all. And you'll see here you have the order to cache process. You have this process step, which is quotation. We have the transaction and the requirements document. And this is beautiful, right? The requirements document is available directly here. Right now it's blank. But assume the requirements of that process or what needs to be tested was defined in this document, right? This is a luxury that testers did not have in the past. First of all, they had no idea of what the end-to-end flow was. They had no idea of what transactions need to be tested and in what order. Right now, you can see it's all available in the requirements section. And it shows you that this requirement has no coverage. It's not covered yet. Okay. The next module is the testing module, where we talked about the test plan module, submodule. This is where you can create your test scripts, and I already have a few test scripts. I have a QTP test script right here, which I'm storing on the QTP. I have a TAO test script that I've stored over here. I could have stored additional manual test scripts, but I don't seem to have a folder for it. So let's create one real quick. And under there, I'm going to create a test script for, say, transaction FP60. I'm going to say, okay, it's a manual test script. And it's as easy as saying, okay, step number 1, what is the description of the step? And what is the expected result? And there you have, that's the step number 1. Then I can say, post-incoming invoice screen appears as the expected result. And that's step 2. So now all these steps, you can see how easy it is to create your manual test script. Okay? Test lab is where you will execute your test scripts. So you can create a test lab, create a test set, and you can add your test scripts in there. I missed basically showing you how you can tie up your requirements to your test scripts. So for instance, if I have this TAO test script, I can say this test script was created for, I'm clicking on the requirements coverage, and I'm just going to scroll here so you can see what I'm doing. This is basically going to, for instance, since I do not have an FI structure here, I'm just going to say this is going to test my entire quotation process. Okay. Oh, okay. Did I do everything? Let me try this for another one. I know what happened. All right. And I'm going to say this particular test script seems to have a lot of stuff. Okay, so I'll use this one here, and this one covers this requirement. So when I go back into the requirements module, what it's telling me is right now, all of my requirements, and I think that has to do with basically what happened with this test script right here. I pulled in the entire order to cash process, I think. Okay. But over here, you can see that with whatever happened back there, I don't know, but we have, it's now showing you that every one of your test requirements has a test script that is covering that test requirement, and it's right now in a no-run status. So you have all your test scripts that you require, but they haven't been executed as yet. So I can go into Test Lab, and I can say, pull in my test script, and it's now available for execution. Okay, you can see this showing as no run status. So this is a QTP test script, and I can assign this test script then to a person responsible. In this case, I assigned it to myself. I can also define exactly when I want this to be executed. And since it's an automated test script, it's possible for you to define exactly when you want to execute it. For instance, I might want to say, execute this today, and then also define when I want to execute it, at what time. Okay? It's also possible, since this is automated testing, I can come in here into the execution flow and say, I'm going to select this and select this, and okay, I'll say I want this to be executed and then the next one, and I'll say okay. So what it will do is okay. So it ordered the tests. When I say execute the test set, it will first execute the TAO test script, and then it will execute the QTP test script. And if you want to just say, I have all of my regression test scripts, I put them into a test set, I order it like so, I can then say run the test set, and I can walk away. It will execute one automated test script after the other. Okay? and the final view is the defects module where you can create a defect. So it's as simple as saying click on a new defect. It'll ask you for a bunch of information. All of these fields are customizable, and you can create defects. You can assign it to somebody. And right now in the system, I'm the only user, so I can assign it to myself, and I can submit the defect. You can manage severity, priority, all of that good stuff. Okay. Looking at the time, we are running out of time here, so I will jump into demoing the business process change analyzer. So I had the business process change analyzer. So SAP has done a good job in compartmentalizing all the tools available within Solution Manager. So it does that in what's known as work centers. Okay. So if I execute in Solution Manager transaction either Solman underscore work center or SM underscore work center, you'll see there are a number of work centers available to you. Since the BPCA tool helps you determine the impact of change, and that is basically telling you, okay, now you know what you have to test. They have placed the tool within the test management work center. So when I come to the test management work center, the BP change analyzer tool is right there. So the screen is pretty neatly laid out as well. In section 1, you determine what is the impact of your change. The change could be a transport, be it workbench or customizing. It could be a support pack. It could be an enhancement pack. It could be a business function activation, which is basically, turning on some functionality within an enhancement pack. If you're using Charm, it could be a change transaction. You then define what system your transport exists in, and then you pull in the transport that you want to analyze in step 3. And then step 4, you say which project you want to analyze it against. So if you remember the Lab User 99 project that we had out there, which had the structure, the transactions, all of that stuff, you select that project, and then you run the analysis. When you click Run, you see we have done a number of analysis in our lab over here. I just utilized, I'm just going to look at one of the analysis that was done quite recently. And as you can see here, it shows you the analysis was complete, and it will tell you which transactions have been impacted. Okay, so it tells you the quotation process VA21 was impacted by one of the transports that was being analyzed, and it found that there were 2 intersections. That means 2 objects were common between the transport and the TBOM. If I want to look at that intersection, I can come here, and it will actually give me details of which object is the common between my transport and the TBOM for my transaction. Okay, so you can see how the BPCA tool can be very accurate in determining your impact of change. So we're almost running out of time here, so I will switch back to the presentation. And let's talk about the solution maintenance. We have, so downstream. So you can start off by defining your business processes within Solution Manager, and then put that into a solution. This becomes your golden copy of your business processes. So when you have your day-to-day maintenance, you can copy those business processes into a maintenance project. If you're doing a fresh implementation, say you're adding CRM to your landscape, you can copy those business processes in here. You're able to sync your requirements into a quality center project for each of those projects. Your maintenance project and your implementation project will have corresponding projects in quality center. Quality center will have a golden repository of your test scripts. So you're able to conduct testing within these particular projects. And then when you're done moving your changes into production, now this is when you move stuff upstream. Any changes that you've made in your maintenance project in Solution Manager or your new implementation, you can copy back to Solution Manager to your golden solution. In Quality Center, any script changes that you've made to those corresponding projects that you had, you can copy them back to your golden project in Quality Center. Okay. We have a few questions over here. How do you map, link, solution requirements, test plan, test, etc.? I think I already went through that, Donna, but I can have another session with you if you'd like to see that done again. And then Robert had a question on how does this work when you have an SAP and non-SAP test cases as part of a flow. So within Solution Manager, when you define your business processes, we showed you only the ERP processes of order to cash. But it's possible for you to create logical components for manual steps, logical components for third-party products. So you can define your end-to-end business processes within Solution Manager, and then testing happens just the same because you're able to send your entire structure across into Quality Center. Okay. So we just had a few questions, but I think I'll skip over these slides. These are basically assessments of where you are right now in your testing process, and get right down to how can NIMBL help you. So if you have any questions on what you saw today, if you'd like more information, please feel free to send me an email. My email will come up in the next slide here. If you are interested in looking at this in a little more detail and would like to arrange for a demo for your team, we'll be more than happy to do that as well. Just send me an email again, and we'll coordinate that with you and your team. And that is it. Here's my information. I see my cell phone number is on there, so please don't call me after 12 at night.
Thank you so much, Steve, and thank you everyone on the phone. We really appreciate your time, and we apologize for going over a little bit, but I do think it was worthwhile. It was a fantastic demo. Like Steve mentioned, we are happy to set up one-on-ones, and we'd love for you to take us up on that. NIMBL is a very much an educated, focused company. That's our philosophy. We like to share, and if we can help you down the road, great. But please take advantage of our expertise. We also will be sending out a survey that we'd love for you to take a couple minutes. It should be no than a minute or two to fill out. We'd love to get your feedback. And we will have some other upcoming webinars that we will share with you down the road. We should have one here at the end of May. Everyone have a great rest of the day, and we really appreciate it. Take care.